You're listening to the Fitness Rants Podcast, the show where unfiltered conversations meet real-world health and fitness.
We cut through the noise and deep dive into the truth behind health, nutrition, physique development, and the fitness industry itself.
We're your hosts, Ross Gilmore and Malin Blumdahl, experienced coaches and educators who have been part of the fitness industry for over 15 years.
If you're a coach, high performer, or someone just tired of mainstream nonsense, you're in the right place.
Now let's get into today's episode. So we're here for another guest episode of the Fitness Rants Podcast, and today I am joined by a long-standing friend, colleague, peer, Mr. Charles Barclay.
Yeah, thank you
Welcome
very
to the
much.
podcast. I think this is a bit overdue. I mean, you might be actually a little bit insulted that you're only the fifth guest I think coming on now.
Fifth is about right. Considering who's been on before me, it actually feels correct.
But I think it's just been timing. It's just not that you started prep, but you know we're at a good point now. You're sort of in the closing stages of both your prep and then with WNBF coming up this weekend, is it?
Yeah, not this weekend, next weekend.
Okay,
Yeah.
got you.
But the kickoff starts this weekend with polygraph testing, this kind of thing.
So we'll get back to WNBF and your involvement of that in a moment and the story behind WNBF UAE. But first of all, just tell the listeners a little bit about you, your history in the industry, UAE.
Yeah, my history is I'm a coach and I've been around the block. It's my 12th year in the UAE, which means it's probably my 13th year coaching, I suppose. Because I pretty much qualified in the UK and then immediately left. And I've had quite a varied athletic background. So I started with coming out of swimming and doing sort of triathlon stuff, found my way into CrossFit from sort of being cardio based. But I'd always had an eye on like bodybuilding, wanting to be more aesthetic, wanting to just see what that side of sport's all about. And for the longest time, I was just a bystander in it because looking at the IFBB, I just thought, I'm never going to be like that. It's not
like
really for me.
a million miles away.
Yeah, it's a million miles away. So I like it. I love the idea of it, but it's not going to be for me. And then I found the WNBF I actually had to go and compete in Germany because that was the closest show to me living out here in Dubai. And I fell in love. I was like, this is brilliant. Like I'm on an equal footing. I'm in with people who, while I might not be the best, I can see the progression and how it's all controlled. And then from there, got offered the opportunity to run WNBF shows here in the UAE. And now that's the side gig, I guess, as well, on top of the coaching. It's pretty good. It's been a good journey.
It's a nice side gig to have.
Yeah, it's great.
Especially given that you have, and not only have, but you've developed over the years such a passion for, and I'm going to say this as well, and we'll sort of elaborate on this later, not just the natural side of the sport. Of course, you are a massive champion for that here. You know, you and Kyle have done amazing work to really raise the profile of that here in the UAE, but just a fan of bodybuilding
I
in
love
general.
it. Yeah, I love it all. Like for me, it's not. I'm constantly watching the Olympia and watching the other federations, and obviously I'm going to push the natural side of it. I love that, but it's all fascinating to me. I don't know what it is about it. Like it's the endeavor, the freakiness. Like it's so interesting to me.
I mean, we'll come back to the whole enhanced versus natural and all the whole fake natty culture that's around at the moment. It's probably one of the most, if you search on YouTube, it's actually one of the most searched trends, or at least topic trends in the bodybuilding space is the whole natty or not thing. Yeah. Almost every creator is jumping on that bandwagon to record videos like that, right?
Yeah.
And naturally, these type of things that are polarizing are going to get a lot of views. I want to just come back a moment though to we could talk about your whole origin into the industry and everything else, but I think where I actually want to start is the WNBF.
Sure.
When that opportunity came around, what were the sort of main challenges you faced bringing natural bodybuilding to, ultimately, let's be honest, it was a completely untested country. Like the UAE was very much just only had enhanced bodybuilding shows and not that many. So what were the challenges you found bringing what was ultimately something very new, not only just it was the first ever, but it was new from a cultural standpoint as well.
I mean, the first challenge we came up with a bright idea to start it in February 2020. So then COVID hit and it was just
fantastic.
Great timing. But outside of that, the biggest challenge here really was, I don't want to say it was much of a challenge, but it's something, you know, if we were in the UK, you'd book a venue. If the venue were okay with you holding a bodybuilding show, you run a bodybuilding show. Here, obviously, we had to work with the Sports Council and connect at the time with some other government bodies and things like that just to get some permissions, which was a hurdle. But actually, the Sports Council were incredibly helpful, I have to say. Like really just want more events, sports events generally. It could be anything. It could be horseback riding, it could be anything, but they want more sport in Dubai, which is actually a huge blessing. So they were very, very helpful. We just had to get all our ducks in a row, paperwork and insurance and things like that. So that was the biggest hurdle. And then getting the word out there and convincing people that the drug testing was legit and we were doing it properly and it was all going to be the real deal. Because that was probably the biggest hurdle we faced from the bodybuilders. It was like skepticism in terms of the polygraph, but also skepticism in terms of what we're doing with the urine testing. Because there has been other federations in the past, maybe not in Dubai, but certainly around the world, that maybe take your urine for collection, but what they then do with those tests is potentially just throw them in the trash and don't care, because it's expensive. Like the urine testing is, gosh, we must spend thousands of dollars on it a year, and because we do test a lot. We test probably the top 30% of our competition, which is quite deep.
That's pretty deep, yeah.
You'll get other federations that only test the winner, but then our argument,
others that maybe do like top 3 things like that.
Yeah. But that would be our argument. Is like, okay, so say you've got your pro card winner and you've tested him and he fails. How do you know the second place person was clean? Like, how far down the chain do you want to go? And obviously, it comes to a point where you don't need to go down to the 7th, 8th, 9th person, but it'd be good to at least have an idea that the top 3 to 5 are clean or not, and then you can, judge from there.
You feel like there's also, apart from it just being about the fairness of placings and making sure people who have won have legitimately won, is there almost a bit of a sort of, it's not only like quality control, but it's sort of making a stamp in terms of an ethos. It's like, hey, listen, we don't have to run it this deep in terms of the testing, but we choose to do so because it's a big part of who we are and what we stand for. Do you feel like there's an ethos and identity component to that?
That's
as well?
a huge part of it,
right?
Because we technically, our directives from WNBF Global, I believe, is that we can do top 1 in pro qualifying classes. You do have to do top 3, but it's then up to the affiliates to decide how much they want to do. So our thing is, especially the first few years where, again, you just don't know people to go be taking it so seriously or not. Let's make it deep. Let's test a lot of people and make sure everything's really fair, everything's on the up and up. And then the big change we made as well, which I haven't really seen many other federations do this, is publish the test results. So even if they're clean, like, we'll just publish everyone's results to Instagram or also to the website in WNBF Global. Like every test, you can find it on our Instagram. So
I don't think it gets any more transparent than
no,
that,
that's it. So it's like, this is, you can't say fairer than that. Like,
and I suppose you guys are like WADA affiliated as well, right?
So we send it off to the US. So they're to a WADA lab down in Utah or something, I believe, something like that.
And so each report essentially has the
it's all rubber stamped
affiliated.
And that's the other thing, there's smaller panels that I know other federations do, where it's just looking at like just your hormone level. You've seen our tests. It's like we test for the metabolites of the substances, and the test is 2 PDF pages long, and it's oxandrolone, like everything, rather than just, this guy's serum testosterone is high, which is not always a tell of something.
And then, okay, they might do that, but then that doesn't necessarily tell you whether someone's using something like Clenbuterol or something like that, like a lipolytic agent that might not get picked up as readily with just that one marker. So,
whereas we can say, and I actually think that helps when people fail from an organisation standpoint, to be able to say, you failed on this, rather than, testosterone was a bit high. Like, that's not, I wouldn't, if I was an athlete, I wouldn't find that particularly
encouraging.
Yeah, encouraging. Whereas when you're, we can go to someone and say, you were on DECA. Like, we have that in your urine.
Literally to the compound. This is exactly what we know.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, this is obviously then, and of course not naming names, but when you did and I competed in the first year. You did. So you guys ran the show. That was my first time
on stage,
stepping on stage ever in men's physique. Nice. And then of course I chose to step away and go and pursue the other direction. But I mean, this is a whole story for another time. But I was very glad that I chose, 1, a natural show to do first, and 2, that show. And I was really happy. It was well run. It was a good experience. And I think for me personally, and this is a bit of a side tangent, I feel like unless you've competed naturally, I personally feel that, especially you see this a lot with the kids nowadays, and they're all following the Sam Suliks of this world. And but of course you've also got Natty champions that, of course then there's the whole discussion that you get, they're actually natural. But you've got champions on both sides now, but certainly the Sam Suleks this world are, and
cool.
even CBum unintentionally has sort of pushed a lot of younger guys in their late teens, early 20s to get on really aggressive cycles really early. And for me, I was a lot older when I started competing. Instead of being a young, spring chicken and being in my early 20s, I was very much early 30s. I started the whole trying to build, whatever else. 34 was when I actually stepped on stage for the first time. So I was a bit older, but I'm glad that it was natural first, because I think really appreciating what it takes to get lean, you only really learn that as a natural, I think. And that's speaking as an enhanced athlete now, that you don't have all these additional levels you can pull on, especially on the pharmaceutical side. So it's diet and output. Yeah. That's all you got. And so I think for a lot of the enhanced guys who almost, and you get a lot of this, almost this superiority complex, and it works in both directions, of course, but you certainly get a lot of the guys that look down on the physique's not that impressive, and they're not, but it's just like, well, when you've been like natty and super lean, you know what lean is. Yeah. Because then if you can do it then, if you do decide to go down the enhanced road, you're such a better base to work from an experience standpoint, when you do potentially pull these other levers that people like myself would.
I mean, you'll see it with one of our pros. Well, he's not pro anymore, but Chalian Hendricks is like a prime example. He is like just genetically blessed and just a great bodybuilder, great frame, heaps of muscle. He was a great natural. He is going to be a great athlete still. And you can see as soon as they get in that mode, even with some assistance, they're just freaks. Yeah. And it's just that will sharpen the knife so much more. If you know how to get really lean naturally, you can go to that place again mentally. You don't need to, push so much lipolytics and things. You can be like, no, I can bear this. I can diet. I can train.
100%. And just to give even a practical example from my own side, when I competed in, and this is just some stats I'm going to throw at you, and this sometimes just makes you realize the comparison. So 2021, it was 2021, or was it 2022? I think it was 2021. Yeah. So I was at my lowest on non-training days, just cardio only days, 1,600 calories. Yeah. Now, granted, I stepped on stage that year at 73, 74 kilos. I think it was 73. Fast forward 3 years after a long time building, not doing anything ridiculous or aggressive. And for those that understand PED language, I didn't go higher than a gram at all throughout those 3 years. So it was very much a conservative, slow progression as far as escalations are concerned. But I stepped on stage at 83. So, I mean, you can imagine the difference between 73 kilos on stage and 83 kilos on stage. Now, the other thing with that is that I actually had to pull cardio out 4 weeks out from the show, the hand show, because the level of fatigue that I was carrying at that stage, I was no longer getting any additional benefit from the cardio. I was still losing it. We took the cardio out and I just kept dropping. Now, two big differences there. One, this time I did have lipolytic assistance. So there's things like growth hormone in there. There's things like Clenbuterol in there. These are all agents that help with that lipolysis process. What that also helped with is that my calories didn't get any lower than, I think it was 250. Yeah. So you can imagine the difference in calories, 1,600 to 250. That's a dream. Massive difference in terms of lowest intake. Now, it didn't mean that it still wasn't challenging, but certainly from a food volume perspective, that just shows you both in terms of food requirements, but also just all the levers you have in play. Yeah. And so anyone who says that, for example, being enhanced, doesn't make that much of a difference, you still have to work hard. I'm sorry. It's like, if you had to almost give a comparative, I would say that it's not a case of the sprinkles on the cake. It's like baking half the cake. Yeah. It's like literally gives you a 50% minimum improvement in everything you can do. So I think speaking from the experience of doing both in a relatively, let's say, 3-4 year time frame, there's quite big differences prepping as a natty and prepping enhanced. And don't get me wrong, I think, of course, if you ask me like which of the two physiques that I prefer, of course the second, because whether anyone likes it or not, being leaner than I was when I competed natural and with 10 kilos more muscle as well, at least in terms of stage weight,
it's just a dry, crazy, grainy freak.
It's a completely different looking physique. And so I think, anyway, I want to bring that back with the WNBF and the testing. And just to finish off on the testing side of things, these segues are going to naturally creep in at points, but hopefully just gives people a bit of insight into, so there really can be this much of a difference. And then bear in mind that was being conservative. Imagine the people who go really aggressive. Yeah. Like, it's obscene. I've seen some guys go from literally a year, like they've literally finished being a natty, and then the next year they're 20 kilos heavier. Like, it's just obscene. Christ. And then there's questions on health, but we can always touch into that later. So when you did the first year and you ran the testing, the year that I competed, for example, how many people failed that year?
No one on urine testing failed that year, which was good. We did get a decent amount of polygraph test failures, which is, from what we were told from other affiliate guys who've run shows for longer, that first one's always the worst, because I think people don't take it seriously. They think maybe it's just a bit of a gimmick, or I don't know what people they might be thinking.
Chance to luck a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other, being very frank, the thing we struggled with a lot was just a lot of blasé Clenbuterol use. Like, we'd get a lot of people who would fail on it and then admit to taking it and be like, oh, but I didn't really think it's not really a serious drug. It's not really this.
Think because it's not an androgen, or
I guess so. That must be their thinking. And so we got a lot of. In fact, I want to say everyone bar one that failed was probably on Clenbuterol.
That's
just
crazy.
A lot of Clenbuterol use. And yeah, even the few, now we get less and less failures. There's still, I would say, must be. If I went back and looked, I reckon it would be 90% Clenbuterol.
So if we're going to say the number one drug that gets flagged is Clenbuterol.
Yeah, in fact.
And listen, I get it because, and I'll just be very candid, it's a fantastic drug.
I'm sure it's great.
Very, very effective for what it does. It comes with its side effects. I'll give you an idea. Like the last, I think I would say 5 weeks of prep. I mean, by that point I was up to, I think, 60 crossing into 80 micrograms. And sleep started to take a massive hit because obviously just that activity on your nervous system and just that impact on stress physiology, like you're just absolutely hammering the stress side of things, and you're leveraging your old stress pathways in order to get that thermogenesis. So of course that comes at a cost, right? And as a result of that, I would wake up 3-4 times a night, and so I'd imagine it was almost like you're having a sleep cycle. You're not fully rested, so maybe 90 minutes, then you're waking up, then you're getting back to sleep, you're having another sleep cycle, and you're waking up, go back to sleep. And I'm not gonna lie, like, just got to a point where, but interestingly enough, even with having all that broken sleep, because of what it does also for your focus as well, I was still getting up early in the morning, earlier than I normally would. I was still really focused, getting lots of work done. Where I felt it really hit me was actually after I finished.
Oh yeah.
As soon as the competition finished, I only did one show. Yeah. And that was always the intention of my first year, is let's just do a prep to the T, one show, bit of a testing phase, and then okay, we can come away and reprioritize. And of course now the focus for this year is on fertility and focusing on that side of things. But then when I do get back into competing, I now have all that
data,
baseline of data experience that goes with it. But yeah, people don't realize, like, yes, it's a very effective drug, and I can definitely understand the appeal of why people feel like, oh, if I can just get that in and they don't know about it, it does make the fat loss side of things so much easier. But it doesn't come without its cost, and certainly on the impact on stress and sleep is huge.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know that side of it actually. And I think the other thing that it might play a part is just like unscrupulous coaches who think it's not going to be a big deal. It doesn't really matter that much, just take it and then you'll get through the polygraph, no problem.
I don't know how I coach it, and surely these must be coaches that usually work with more enhanced athletes.
I'm sure it must be
prioritizing this.
Yeah, that's probably where it comes from, is they just haven't read our banned substance list because of this perception that it's not so serious, it might not be on there. They're just probably talking about testosterone or whatever, and it's just like, no.
If I was that athlete, or if I was a client and my coach was, it'll be fine, and then I couldn't compete because of that, I would be fuming.
Yeah, I'd be raging as well.
Immediately sacked.
Yeah,
and their reputation would be down the toilet.
Yeah.
But I just can't understand why you don't have the awareness or intelligence as a coach to go, right, well, you know what, I'm going to take, this might not be the federation I usually compete in. I might
take a look.
I think, like, often people say I might not agree with the rules. I think that's a really childish way to look at it. It's not about agreeing or disagreeing with the rules. It's that this is one end of the sport and this is another end of the sport. And so it's not about liking or not liking it. That's a childish notion or way to look at it. It's, these are the rules. You stick to the rules. Simple as that.
My thing is, you vote with your feet. So if you don't like the way we operate, you can go and compete somewhere else.
100%.
We're not forcing you to come to the WNBF by any means. But if you are, we call it where the truly natural compete, because we probably have the most stringent testing and the biggest demands of what that means. And so, yeah, we're not forcing you to come. But if you are a truly natural bodybuilder, come through. It's great for you.
Prove it
exactly. Prove it and come through. We'll definitely welcome you. But yeah, you do get a lot of people who feel, somehow offended if they do fail, right? And they rightly fail. What tends to happen? They'll fail and then admit to us what they've taken. So we're never just blindly guessing. We always get something out of them. But, you know, I tried. Part of my reasoning is like we didn't force you to compete. If you knew you were taking this stuff, either wait for your clearance time, because the rules might have changed recently. Actually, I should remember this, but you know, because Clenbuterol is not so powerful, it's only a 2-year ban on that. So just come back in 2 years, stop taking it, come back in 2 years and compete. 2-year off season for you. Go on. So you know, it is a funny part of it. That part, which is always entertaining. I've got that to look forward to next week.
Yeah, it's always a joy. And the thing is, people that like to cut corners and then throw the biggest tantrums when it doesn't go their way.
The one thing I'll say now, people understand it a lot more, so that we really don't get nearly as many failures, and we're getting a lot more. I'm seeing a lot more names now who have competed a couple of years ago or a few years ago. So more people who are in the space that understand it. So that will definitely also help communicate to their friends or anyone interested. Like, hey, this is what it's all about. You better make sure you're good to go.
And I think also more coaches who coach athletes in both sides of the sport respect it a lot more as well.
Yes.
I mean, certainly the ones who are high profile, they are massive champions of both sides of the sport.
They would never, that's exactly right.
Because the thing is, they're professionals, right? They're doing a good job regardless of whether they're dealing with natural enhanced. And the goal for them is, right, if I'm a really skilled coach, I know the levers I can pull on to get the desired outcome. And so, you know, you just have to name but a few of the top coaches in the UK that we follow for a while. So look at like Cal, look at like Josh McHale. What's the guy who owns, he lives out here now, tall guy with the glasses.
Tall guy with the glasses?
Is Mrs. is the bikini IFBB pro.
No idea who you mean.
What's his name? LFG or whatever the name of the coaching was. But anyway, this guy, he's like very, very seasoned coach. So a lot of these guys have people competing across multiple federations, which all have their own criteria and rules.
Outside of drug testing, you see it with the posing. Like you'll see guys come through and do IFBB posing, particularly in my category, men's physique. And you're like, no, it's quarter turns. Probably something you should have researched before you stepped on stage. So it goes way beyond the testing anyway. People just get locked into the biggest one, which is obviously our NPC IFBB, and then try and run with that. And you have to sort of say, it's a bit different, but no problem.
Would you say that from that first year of inception to now, like which number of shows is coming up now? 5, 6?
Well, 5th year, but we've been doing 2 a year for the last couple of years, so it's 7th, I guess.
So 7th show, 5th year. Even though the number of athletes, and I mean, I even saw it from like the first year to the second year, even to the third year, the growth, like talk me a bit about that, the growth in terms of participation numbers from say year 1 till now. So
I think our first show, we got just under 70. And this year we're going to have, just under 220, I think.
Wow.
So it's grown, and that's just been year on year growth. And the cool part of it is it's been from around, not just in the country, but from around the region as well. So we now have lots of Saudis, lots of guys from Egypt, Qatar, Kuwait, like all around the GCC coming in. And then it's a really international show. So last year, for example, we had more than 60 individual nationalities. Wow. So we're really fast becoming which really fits Dubai, to be fair.
It's like a bit of a destination show,
isn't it? Exactly right. Like, so that's a kind of cool. Like, it fits Dubai's style anyway to have like a big melting pot of people. But the cool thing is now we are getting slowly more and more local recognition as well. So in our April show, we had a small Emirati bodybuilding like class, so for locals only. This year we're going to have the same, and hopefully we can offer an Emirati pro card, like just for the Emirati bodybuilding category, which would be really cool. Like something just to give back to the country a little bit and kind of celebrate their wins.
Yeah, I'm sure they appreciate that a lot as well.
I think so. It was a cool touch. Like, and we've got even the guy who won his pro card in April, who is an Emirati, is competing as a pro now. So slowly but surely, we're also getting that more and more local culture, which is really cool.
I think that's really important when you're coming into a country like the UAE that offers so much opportunity to the expats that come in, live here and try to build careers and ambitions and explore opportunities. And obviously, you and Kyle had a vision based on a passion that you both had shared, and then it's actually quite incredible to see just the level of growth it came from the year that I competed to where it is now. And I'm assuming that it's only going to continue to grow. And from a cultural standpoint, I'd imagine that probably that one area, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that is just going to take a little bit more time. And I know there's cultural barriers to this, is the female participation side.
Still struggling with that, but I think that's always going to be a bit of a challenge, just culturally anyway. But just getting the word out there and letting females know that we're offering the female categories, because certainly from the international crowd, that people who want to come and compete is, I didn't think you'd do female categories in the Middle East, which is obviously it's been long gone now, that kind of thing. It's much more accepting, much more open. So that will grow. It's grown this year. We'll have a few more, and particularly our pro bikini class is going to be very competitive compared to last year. It was only 3 girls. I think we're going to have to double or more that. So the pro class will be much better, which I'm really excited about. That'll be nice.
So of course it's great to have that international awareness and have more higher caliber athletes come in, because that only just raises the standards. What do you think is going to be the barrier to have more local participation in terms of females? Because there are plenty of females who are into the training, and they look at opportunities like this as, okay, well, I've been training for a long time. Maybe they've achieved a pretty respectable transformation already, and they're just looking for that next thing.
I think what we need to do a better job of, this could actually go for everyone, but I think it projects to the females particularly, is just giving the athletes a little bit more time center stage, a bit more presence, whether that be through social media, through the videos and the media that they get. I think that's something that all athletes want, and it's, we talk about this behind the scenes, but that's the reason why people still go and compete with the NPCs, because you're going to get the most exposure there. Most athletes are coaches themselves, like that's pretty typical, so they want to get exposure for themselves so they can get more clients, blah blah blah, and that's one thing we can definitely do a better job of as well, is make sure every athlete that steps on stage gets some level of exposure. And I think for the female side of things, that's a big part of it, is how much exposure can I get, maybe not just on social media for clout, but just for myself. Like I think it's fair to say anyone who steps on stage is going to want those pictures, those videos, those memories. And particularly in the bikini side, where it's like glitz and glamour, lots of that kind of thing, you want more of that. So if we can offer more exposure for all our athletes, but particularly the ladies, I think that would help bring some more people in. Because right now, I think most of the females are still going with the Muscle Show, Dubai Pro, NPC, because they're huge events. You're gonna get a lot of eyeballs on. My argument would be, you're a small fish in a big pond there. Whereas if you did come and step on the WNBF stage, you'll be a big fish in a small pond. You'll get a lot of stage time. If you're a good athlete, you have a very strong chance of placing. And with that becomes potentially pro cards, which, we have the third highest prize pool on the WNBF calendar as well. So there's a ladder that we're trying to give as well, so that people stay in the federation.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I look from the outside in, even someone who has also had exposure to all of the different federations, personally, obviously with WMF and then doing NPC in Sweden, and yeah, I get it. Like, there's certainly a big pull towards the quote-unquote more established federations. But when I look at the production quality and even like some of the vendors that you get involved, like you look at, I think it was last year, for example, or certainly the year that both, when I was coaching Raquel and Alina, it was Toby Harrison was doing the photography, right? And so you had lots of very high quality people coming in, because I'll be honest with you, and we spoke about this before, one of the things I was the most disappointed about with the year I competed was the stage photos.
That was a shame.
You could hardly see. It was like literally a dot, and it was just that the guys were first year, they were local, they were amateurs, for lack of a better term. Whereas bringing in someone like Toby, who's just so seasoned, experienced, the quality of the stuff that he provided was just night and day.
He's the best.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. And
that's exactly it.
And that's we're not biased just because he is, he's done those shows, and he's also not only photographed me but a bunch of my clients, but it's just because he is good.
I mean, and that's it. And that's why he also doesn't just do WNBF. He's with FMG. He's world-renowned photographer. Like, my feeling was, hey, this guy's in Dubai. I might as well just shoot him a shot. Let's see what happens. Like, you never know. That really was one of those things where, what's the worst can happen? He'd be like, oh no, I'm busy, or it's like too small fry. He was like, I'm in Dubai anyway.
The thing about Toby is that, I mean, you obviously came to know as you've worked with him on a professional level, is the guy is such a fan of bodybuilding.
Yeah,
so a lot of people don't realise, I mean, you see Toby himself, and this is absolutely all respect to Toby, he's not a bodybuilder himself. He's not in the gym getting absolutely jacked. I mean, he trains and stuff, he looks after himself. And obviously his wife is a phenomenal competitor as well, bikini competitor. She just did Fit Model
FMG
and NPC.
Oh, NPC, oh shit.
So she did a little change of...
Nice, okay, great.
So, obviously it's a couple who are passionate about the sport and pursue it in different ways.
That's great.
But he's a massive fan of the sport, and that comes through in all the projects that he gets involved in. So to that point, I mean, if WNBF wasn't a serious organization and a serious show, it wouldn't attract the likes of those type of people coming in and lending their expertise. And so to your point, I think that even though many might see the clout and everything they get from the more established organizations on Instagram, I think all it's going to take is just another, I mean, you guys have done 5 years. I think 5 years from now,
it'll be different cheddar.
It's different gravy altogether, right? And I think, like you said, it's tested. So for a lot of females, they often, I've spoken to many females that have wanted to compete, and back in the day, even when I wasn't contest prepping, you would ask them, they're like, oh, well, I'm going to have to travel abroad because it's only untested shows here, and so I don't have these options. And I bet many of them that are now either no longer here or no longer competing wish they had something like WNBF, because then they'd be like, oh, I feel confident that I can
Would have been great.
Go into something that I know is properly tested and it's a level playing field. But I think that will grow, because there's definitely many females who are interested in competing, but they're just not fully aware that this is a great path to, especially if you're a first-time competitor. I think if you're a first-time competitor as a female, it's a no-brainer.
I 100% agree.
In my opinion.
100%
now,
agree.
granted, there might be, we spoke about this before as well, I think the only valid option that's here at the moment, unfortunately, is probably bikini.
Yeah.
But, and I can speak for this because I've got a couple of clients who are naturals in, but they're just a bit beyond the bikini criteria. But I think ultimately you can only start really in one place. Bikini is always going to be the more popular class. I think Fit Model and NPC though is very much
that's looking good, isn't it? They're
chasing
doing a
up
good
on
job there.
bikini now.
Yeah, and then the goal for us would be to then try and expand and get some figure classes going as well.
Yeah, there you go.
And that would be great. Like we had a small one last year, but there's definitely potential there because there's so many well-trained ladies here. So they're ready. They must be ready to go, and figure would suit people like that brilliantly. Like they'll fit right in, especially WNBF figure, where if you've got a good amount of muscle, you'll do very, very well.
Yeah, and then really the condition is the massive thing.
If you can get reasonably lean and you've got a good amount of muscle as a female, you can really kill it in figure.
But otherwise, I suppose only really at the moment until that time comes. If we did have someone who was based here and they wanted to do figure naturally, they would have to almost go abroad at this stage.
The European scenes are really good for figure. Yeah, and to be fair, some of the Asia shows as well have big figure classes, but and even the next one up for us, which is weirdly the other way around to the NPC, Fit Body, is really popular in Europe. So that's basically bodybuilding in heels. Like they do double bicep poses and things like this, side tricep poses. Really popular in Europe, which is interesting to see. Really cool. Like properly, really, really well muscled ladies who can get crazy lean. So it's cool, very cool.
It would be great to just see more of that
everywhere. I would love it. Yeah.
So before we close the chapter on WNBF and move into the more ranty, opinionated part of the podcast, which you've been waiting for, but what is, like, you're 5 years in at this stage, how do you see the WNBF evolving over the next 5 years? And also potentially, I'm sure you guys have your visions and plans for what is going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years as well.
The biggest thing will be to make, for the UAE show specifically, to keep building it as like the destination show on the calendar. Like make it so that when the 2026, 2027, 2028 calendar comes out, people are marking that one up already. Like, where's the UAE show? And they're trying to plan their season around that. That's what I want. But outside of that, the biggest push for us is to keep pace with the NPC and overtake it. Like that's especially now the NPC have released the NPC Naturals. We need to make sure that we are offering a better natural offering than they are. Yeah. Which currently I would say, for the very serious natural athlete, we are, because they have their only 3 years drug-free rule, and even then, if you fail, you can come back after a year. You know, it's very, very lenient. For me, almost to an embarrassing degree. Like that's pretty kind of nothing in terms of who you're allowing in. But that's just my opinion. So
think about it, like if you could be, say, like you do crazy cycles or get like crazy progress over 5 years, just come off for a year or two, and I can speak again also from short-term experience, but I certainly know more experienced bodybuilders who have done a very similar thing where, I mean, I'm literally at the moment, because of fertility and stuff, I'm on TRT, but my maintenance when I was natural was always sitting around sort of 81, 82, maybe 83 if I was just a little bit heavier. I won't say
a few extra
carrying
meals
a few
out.
extra, but maybe not quite that, but but I would range in that sort of range, whereas now I sit between like 91 to 93. Yeah. So I've been able to, and I can definitely notice when I look at sort of pictures of myself now and when I was at peak, of course I was fuller, a little bit more dense muscle-wise, but I've still held on to a reasonable amount of size.
Definitely.
Of course, I drop, but
still there.
That was still 8 kilos potential of muscle that's still sitting there. So I think people underestimate just how much muscle you can hold on to and for how long if you go from being, reasonably well enhanced, whether it be sort of moderate or even aggressive, and then you pull back to TRT, and all you have to have is just your testosterone at the top end of the physiological range. If you know how to manage that well,
you'll be all right.
Then you still would pass as a natural technically based on the blood. So then in which case it's like, well, now you've had someone who's been able to have all the advantages, pull back for a period of time, hold on to a ton of tissue, and then oh, but I'm natural.
Yeah.
And so to that point, wild. I think if you are going to be truly natural,
so we have to just
I
make
absolutely
sure,
think the time frames have to be long enough.
So we just have to make sure that we match up to their level of exposure, so that people who are natural and want to compete with the best natural federation choose us, so that they get same level of exposure if they go and compete with the NPC, but in a more prestigious natural federation. Then the flip side of that is also just to keep the pro scene growing, because it's been no surprise that in the few years before, people will get their WNBF pro card, and that's, rather than stay and compete as a pro, they'll just go and move into the NPC, try and get their IFBB pro card and what have you. Whereas now with events like our show having a high prize pool, the Galaxy just launching now with a really big prize pool, trying to keep pros in the federation, keep them competing with us and grow the pro scene. Because that was always the problem, was that the pro scene was quite small anyway, and the prize money wasn't that big, so it was only natural that pros would not see any ladder. There's no reason to stay in the federation, because if they've won a pro show, they've pretty much done everything apart from maybe win Worlds, which is only once a year. So now by creating more of a pro season, having lots of shows with good prize money, with a big prize pool at the end between Galaxy and Worlds, much better. We're looking in keeping them in the federation, keeping them coming back year after year.
Yeah.
So two-pronged attack.
Yeah, it almost feels like, and you, again, tell me if I'm out of bounds on this, it almost feels like when you get a WNBF pro card, it's like, that's almost like that's you pretty much reached almost the end of the line, so to speak, for many people.
It certainly was.
Apart from Worlds, like you said, but that was like, for a lot of people, it's like, well, I've got my pro card, but what is there to do next? I look at that compared to IFBB, and it's like, well, first of all, to get a pro card is unbelievably challenging. We see some of the people we've been following for, we could easily probably name a few names, for like 5, 8, 10 years trying to get a pro card. Like, it's crazy hard to get a pro card competitive. Although nowadays, of course, they would argue that they hand pro cards out for fun. And I think that's a bit myopic. You also have to look at the level of participation in the sport.
That's why I'd argue is like, if you compare it to number of athletes, it's not at all.
No, actually,
a good same thing in the WNBF. People talk about like pro card inflation a little bit, but you have shows like Malaysia and Taiwan that have 300 plus athletes. You're only giving out 3 pro cards. That's nothing. It's really, really small. So,
and I think the same as in the IFBB is just kind of like, well, also like if you look at it, it's like there may be more athletes, but then they're handing out more pro cards. Yeah. But when you actually look in, I think often people will just look at individual shows or individual situations and go, but look at this, these many people got. It's like, but first of all, that competition had twice as many athletes as that one.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably the awareness and popularity of the sport is probably at an all-time high at this point in time as well.
It's really popular now.
So popular. Bodybuilding is very much in its prime at the moment. So, of course, naturally, there's going to be more people involved. And as a result, you've got to then accommodate that. So, I completely see that being the case. But I think moving on from that, let's sort of discuss that. We've been talking now about this whole IFBB versus WNBF, and of course there's other natural federations out there as well. Like if we look at
in the UK,
in the UK, we also look at when I went to India to support Pune, he also had ICN, for example.
They're doing a great job.
So as far as this whole camp mentality that's developed, so we clearly have this very much, there's the natural side of things, and you can sort of speak to this better than anyone, where it's almost like got to a point where there's a natty elitism that's sort of developed, where it's kind of like, well, anyone who's taking PEDs, we're going to completely discount any of their pursuit, effort, discipline, and dedication to the sport because, well, and of course you only have to look at the comment sections of any Instagram post. I even got it, I remember when I posted my natural to enhanced change, and I mean the amount, and I'm not even a big popular account, but the amount of syringes that got posted in the comments, and you're just like,
Did you read the caption?
I'm quite aware that this is kind of what's been going on. I've been very transparent and open about this, but what is it you think that, and so you're around the natural scene, what is it you think that drives this constant need to be pushing home the idea of oh, but it doesn't matter because you were assisted, or almost like, what is it that's developed this almost hatred towards the enhanced side of the sport?
I'm not entirely sure because I've never felt that way.
And
so it's really difficult
that was what
for
I
me
was
to
going to get
relate.
to next. So
I think it's probably that people work in the natural side and the enhanced side, but in that side work really, really hard, and if they haven't had any knowledge of the other side, assume that the guys who are enhanced don't have to do as much, they don't have to train as hard, because you hear this all the time. Oh, if you get assistance, you can just touch your weight and you'll grow, which is not really true anyway. But I think a lot of those kind of stories get perpetuated, and then the natural guys just sort of get some kind of loathing for that, because they feel, damn, I'm in here, I have to break PRs every other week, I have to diet on 1600 calories, I have to do all the cardio, and like these guys just have to not do quite as much and just take a little bit of something. And there's probably an element of loathing in that where it starts. That's what I think.
Okay, so I mean, let's maybe even break that into two parts. Now, I love to play devil's advocate in both of these situations. So it's like, okay, well, let's look at it from the natty side. Mm-hmm. I completely get it. It's this idea that, well, I'm having to like literally diet, not just the macros, but also the actual energy balance. Yeah. Then there's, of course, the cardio side of things. I know certainly when I was a natty, that was probably the most amount of expenditure so that I had to do. It just had to be so high. Like I had no choice because it was just one of your biggest levers. Yeah. Only lever you really had.
Once you get down to those many calories, what are you going to do? You going to eat less? No.
And the thing is and we sort of spoke about this before, not just us two, but just Mal and I have spoken about this before, even I think on one of the previous podcasts we've done already, is the goal is to create a calorie deficit, not a nutrient deficit. The problem is that the lower your calories go, the harder it is to maintain nutrient status. And so there's only so far you can really go before that's no longer an option. Like, how are you going to actually go in and even do anything remotely useful in your lifting sessions? And bear in mind that I think this is important to note on, is that I was still making progress even when eating 1600 calories in the gym. Yeah. So this notion that you are in a deficit and you're just going to get super weak, I think that's more for a lot of people it's in their head. Don't get me wrong, I mean, there were certain lifts that certainly took a bit of a hit, but was it a case that I just got weaker across the board? No, definitely not. With that said, I'd be lying if I said that having to do 15,000 steps, 7,000 of that with a 10 kilo weighted vest, 60 minutes of cardio every day, plus my 5 lifting sessions a week, that was what the end of my prep looked like. And 1,900 calories on some days, and then 1,600 calories on other days. And 1,600 calories just wasn't on just the 2 non-lifting days, it was on 2 of the other days as well. Yeah. So it was like the 2 easier upper body days. Oh, you can have 1,600 calories that day as well. So thank you very much. Okay, so you're essentially doing 1,600 calories, your lifting session, and your 60 minutes of cardio, and your 15,000 steps. Yeah. So yeah, I completely get it. You're doing all of that stuff only to feel like these other people are just like, well, I just don't need to do that. Yeah. But having had experience of both, just because you can leverage other tools, it doesn't mean that it's not a lot of effort and it's not hard. So I didn't have the hunger that I maybe had during I didn't really, I'm one of these people, I'm weird. Like I don't experience a lot of hunger when I diet. Not certainly to the point where people feel like they're like, oh my God, I am dying, my stomach's growling.
I'm honestly with you. Like I'm quite good at dieting. Yeah. In that, like if I know that's the meal plan, I'll eat it and I'll space it out appropriately and I'll be all right.
Essentially be a robot. You just do it, right? You just have my meals, I get it done, end of discussion, that's it. But the energy for me, like I get the heavy legs, the low energy.
That's where I'm at.
The fatigue, all that stuff. And so I would say that was more intensive when I was doing the assisted prep than the natural prep. Now, the fatigue towards the end of the natural prep, like the last 2 weeks was, especially the depletion week, was horrible. But I would say that it was just that depletion week that was really hard, whereas it was literally the whole last 5 weeks of the assisted prep was really hard. Wow. And that's with the cardio out. So that's just interesting. Do you think that's just
because your lifting performance was still so high that you were just like battering
massive part of it? So obviously you've got the androgens in place, you're able to maintain muscle mass, you're holding on to much more tissue, your training performance in the gym is still very good at that point. So yeah, I think you're even though you gain in one aspect, you're still taking a cost elsewhere.
For every gimme there's a gotcha.
There you go, exactly. So it's just like, well, everything comes at a cost, regardless of which pathway you go. Yeah. But I think I completely understand where the natties come from, because they almost see it as, and I think this is the only sort of phrase or statement I can make to sort of sum up well, is it's the more pure, truest form of bodybuilding.
Yeah, they feel like
it's almost like the purest thing. And like, well, if you're using all of this other stuff, then you can't say that that's truly 100% your effort, your sacrifice.
I definitely feel that's it. Pure is the right word to use. I think there's some weird level of like purity tests sometimes in natural bodybuilding,
which obviously is a very apt saying for it because technically it's pure, it's like untainted. And
yeah, it's just funny when they take it to an extreme of really hating anything outside of that sphere. Strange to me.
But then on the flip side, you also have the enhanced side of things that look down on natural bodybuilding, and they very much see it as, why would I want to be a natural if I... And you get a lot of the, why would I want to be a natural if I look like that on stage? There's very much this nose down of, well, if that's as much muscle and how lean I can get, then why would I bother? Now, don't get me wrong, there's some incredible natural athletes on the natural scene nowadays, and to the point where even some naturals are competing in enhanced shows alongside the enhanced athletes and actually doing pretty damn well. So there's definitely some very good natural athletes out there, but I think one thing we have to agree on is, regardless of which pathway you go down, genetics at that elite level of the sport are going to play one of the biggest roles within that.
Absolutely.
I mean, just look at this very topical thing at the moment is Urs going over to open class. Wow.
Yeah.
From
didn't expect that.
Classic Olympia to that is just, I remember it popped up my feed and I had to look like 3 times. I was like, what just happened to that guy?
Proper.
Obviously, it didn't just happen, but...
Proper amount of muscle gain.
What it tells you is just how much he was holding back to do classic in the first place.
Trying to stay in that weight cap was just doing no favours. Okay, let's just go. Cool.
And now he's getting all the comparisons to your rules and your Yateses and all that sort of stuff.
That's a big one to get compared to Yates. It's pretty cool.
And even his countryman, Marcus Rule as well, which obviously was the big German bodybuilder for a long time. But yeah, I think on that side of things, I think that my big issue with the camp mentality is just that. It's just why there has to be a superiority rather than just respecting that, okay, this is one pathway in the sport, this is another pathway in the sport. These are the constraints and variables that you have to master and deal with. But funnily enough, it's like the constraints and variables they have to deal with here, you also have to deal with within enhanced bodybuilding as well. Just that you might have additional tools on top of things, which I think, and this is just my opinion, I'm sure many other might share it, some don't. I feel like often the natural guys don't fully appreciate how much knowledge and understanding you need to have to do the enhanced side of the sport well. Because once you start tinkering with stuff that's outside of the endogenous normal range of your physiology, you have to understand the interplay of pharmacology, physiology, looking at lab work and really interpreting, understanding exactly what's going on. You have to understand that stuff very, very well. So if you don't, you can cause a lot of harm, either to yourself if you're not even thinking about it. And I mean, how we come from obviously the UK where you would hear of people being in gyms and on cycles, like, so how often do you do your bloods? I don't really do them. It's like, sorry? It's like, they're literally like not even looking at the labs. They're just like, I'm just running cycles and
getting into it,
getting absolutely jacked and no care in the world. I do think that that's sort of changing a little bit. I think that with the increase in knowledge and education and awareness and more people speaking a bit more openly and candid, although in this country that can still backfire a little bit, as to my personal experience with no longer being in the warehouse gym, of course. But certainly in the UK and other countries where it's been a bit more of a established cultural phenomenon where both sides of the sport have existed hand in hand for a long time. I mean,
it's just both sides are massive in the UK now. It's just and everyone trains out of Ultraflex Rotherham apparently, so it seems to be that everyone just mingles there. So I think people certainly start to understand each other a lot more. It's just I think probably comes from a lack of understanding to a certain degree.
And it's interesting you say that, because I feel that is almost happening concurrently, as you've got probably the biggest us versus them divide that you've ever seen in the sport. But actually, when you think about it, the top end of the sport, so I feel like that happens, all that stuff happens more at the lower to middle end, whereas at the top of the sport, everyone is so supportive, collaborative. You don't see like Ryan Terry and AJ Morris, for example, you wouldn't see them butting heads with each other. They'd just be like mad respect.
Well, there's just the previous world champion, Josh Croggan, just did a YouTube video with Ryan Terry.
There you go.
Like they just collaborate, the WNBF world champion, I should say, Josh Croggan, and Ryan Terry just did a YouTube video together, like collaborating. So like the collaboration's 100% there. It's always been there. Cuba and AJ Morris, they always seem to pop into each other's videos now and again. There's no one cares. It's bodybuilding. Like iron sharpens iron. Like you respect the hustle of anyone doing it, regardless of what they're doing. That's been my opinion always. If you like bodybuilding, I like you. That's it. I don't care. I don't care.
Well, if there was a message to take away from that, I think that would be the big thing, is that why can't we all just, regardless of which pathway you choose to go down, the only thing I'd wish for anyone would be that you practice it in the safest possible way. That's it. another thing, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this. And I think this was, maybe it was Victor Black that sort of started the conversation around this as a perspective, is the idea that, well, technically speaking, if you go to the Olympia end of competing, let's say the top professional end of enhanced bodybuilding, no one can in their right mind say that bodybuilding is healthy. And I think the problem is within our industry, we see this a lot, is that you've got bodybuilders who are trying to coach Gen Pop, and they're using their absolutely diced stage photos as, I know what I'm doing, come work with me.
Yeah.
But the reality is that there's a sort of intersection where, right, moving in that direction will improve your health to a point, i.e. just having better body composition, like a manageable body fat percentage, more muscle mass. We all, at least most of us hopefully listening to this podcast, know the benefits that affords us in terms of things like metabolic health, reducing the risk of things like osteoporosis, and I could go on, list goes on, right? But of course, you get to a point where body fat gets low enough, or muscle gets higher beyond what your frame can ideally carry, and we see this much more on the super physiological side of things, of course. There's going to be a point where health is no longer trending in the right direction. And so you knowingly, and I certainly, this was a massive part of what I weighed up when I chose to go down that pathway, was there's going to be a point I get to here where I'm willingly making a choice to take risks on health or to allow health to be subpar for a period of time in order to achieve an outcome. And so I think for me, if I were to look at, and you know, I've had clients ask this, like, well, how would you see the healthiest way to go about prepping for a bodybuilding show? I actually think the middle of the road approach is probably the healthiest way to go about the actual endeavor.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that, you know, let's just say, for example, rather than going all the way to like you're a Natty with zero assistance, nothing to help manage testosterone levels, let's say steroid hormone levels, nothing to manage thyroid, there's nothing in play to support any of that. But on the other end, you're literally utilizing very liberally all that stuff in order to get a certain looking outcome. Right. There's a place in the middle, I feel, where if you were to almost compete, but and using blood work as a reference point, like, okay, well, if my thyroid is starting to get suppressed, maybe I bring in just enough to keep that up at a decent level, close to the physiological range. I take enough testosterone as that starts to decline, just to keep that to the top end of the physiological range. So you're using the PEDs, but in a way to support something closer to normal physiology while you go through a contest prep diet. So I think this is Victor Black was the first person I heard speak of it in this manner, and I was like, as someone who thinks logically, scientifically, I was just like, it makes total sense. And that was actually my main reason for researching and going down that path after the first natural show. Is I was like, right, I'm 34 years old now. I took the time to, you know, a good sort of 4 or 5 months. Yeah. And I had a look at my test levels. And I know it can take longer for some people, but me knowing that I wanted to compete again, it was like, well, do I take a whole year? Do I take a whole year to get, hopefully, maybe, and I'm not a guarantee, for test levels get back to a good enough range to be able to start like a proper building phase, and then I need to do that for long enough, and then I need to do a diet again, and I'm going to spend another 2 years trying to get, and no guarantee that test levels will come back to where they are, knowing that I was at that cut-off age where, well, likelihood is actually my testosterone is only going to continue to go down at a certain point, even naturally without competing. Do I want to pursue competing with a subpar physiology? And the simple answer for me was no, I don't want to do that. So that's why I thought, well, you know what, I don't want to go into it to the point where I just become an absolute meathead like after the first year of doing it and just like take everything I possibly can. It's like, how can I do this in a really intelligent way? And that was my thought process, is what can I do just to get physiology to the top end of the physiological range across the board? Okay, then I'm just going to explore just a little bit beyond that. What's happening to my health markers? Okay, let's get that in place, sweet, fine. Let's add the next layer in. And so it was very much this idea of a strategic approach. And even when going what I like to refer to as TRT plus, TRT plus a little bit extra, or a bit more extra, especially when I prepped. But the blood work and a health first lens being the thing that guided all the decision making. And so I personally feel that if you wanted to ask me and you hold a gun to my head, I would die on that hill. The healthiest way to pursue bodybuilding prep is actually something that's in the middle between, it's not fully assisted, but it's assisted enough to support physiology.
I mean, logically sound.
Now,
my counter argument is that, like, I don't think you can prep. I don't think competing in bodybuilding is particularly healthy in any direction. Like, naturally, like where I'm at right now, I'm not the healthiest I've ever been. That's just facts. Like the low body fat, like the low energy, definitely hormones will be down regulated. Like, that's not healthy. Equally, when you're getting all the way up to, you know, Olympia levels, that's definitely not healthy as well. I think almost whatever way you slice it, once you start pushing extremes of anything, if you got extremely obese, if you got extremely over muscled, if you get extremely lean, I think all of those directions, you're pulling things in the wrong directions. Just how much you're willing to tolerate that. How much are you willing to give for a plastic karate trophy?
There you go, exactly. And so I think even to, I don't know if I'd say devil's advocate, my own points, I like to do that as well. So
Sure.
how can I rip my own arguments apart? But if I look at, given that the goal is to compete, no one's going to be competitive by running a middle of the road approach.
Right.
So that's the issue with it. It's kind of like, well, the point that I'm then making is more so how could you pursue physique enhancement in the quote unquote safest and or supporting your physiology in the best possible way. The problem is that what supports health isn't necessarily supportive of achieving elite outcomes. And so I wouldn't be able to compete in natural because I'm still using some form of assistance. So I don't get the benefit of that. But I'm also not able to maximize my enhanced competitiveness because if I'm trying to keep health
everything
so much in line, then I'm not willing to take enough of the risks and the steps to do well in that. So that's what I would say that is more so where this applies is, and I've got a few clients in this boat, it applies probably to those that don't want to compete.
Right.
It applies to those that are maybe like, hey, I want to pursue
look
some
good as hell.
Exactly. Or, like they want to like pursue advanced physique development, but without going to such extremes. They don't mind going down the PED side of things, but they want to do it in as strategic and sensible way as possible. And I think that's many, and this is the problem again with the whole Natty camp, is that many of them would just say, well, for just their own biases, probably that's the main thing that drives it, is they're just like, well, you could do it naturally. It's like, I'm sorry, but there's certain things that you can achieve progress-wise that you can't do naturally. Whether you like to slice it that way or not, I was never going to make the progress that I made in my last prep without doing what I did.
I'd even say for people who, like you're talking about, don't want to compete, to get in insane shape naturally, it's just going to take your soul. Like, and if you're willing to do that for a small season for a photo shoot, then good for you. Yeah. But be ready. It's going to be,
and
you know,
just
you
to be
have
clear
to
as well,
give
most of our
everything.
clients that have done photo shoots, like most of mine, like I think a lot of people often thinking, and this is also, I was going to come to this point later, but it's a good way to segue in and now, is that one of my clients, I won't really say who, but they essentially said to me, they started working with me and it was maybe their, I think it was their first ever time going through their photo shoot process. And this individual is now, they're going through their third prep now, just starting now with me. And so they were at a friend's place, and this is something that they do yearly, like a bit of a gathering. And they're like, oh, I saw that you're working with Ross now. I guess that means you're going to be going on all sorts of stuff now. That was just the immediate assumption that they had because, well, if he does it, then surely all of his clients must be doing it. Massive, 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 and I'll say it again, massive misconception about coaches are enhanced, that every single one of their clients is getting pushed all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's wild.
Absolutely the opposite. If you took the percentage of my clients that use any form of, even if we include just therapeutic TRT or HRT within that, let's include those people in. Yeah. It's still about 5% of my total client base. And if I look at all the results I've ever achieved in the past, grand majority are completely 100% natural people. So I don't know where this idea comes from that you, as soon as you move into that camp, that now the whole world revolves around that and everyone else has to do it as well. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. And so I think for me, what I've seen is that some of my clients come to me and they were that, don't want to compete, whatever else, but they were guys who were exploring TRT for therapeutic and health reasons. And I was like, okay, well, great. Now, if I was a natty elitist and I was like, no, you shouldn't do that, what I then do by projecting my bias onto them is that, well, here's a tool that could be, like you said, rather than suffering and or potentially putting up with lower test levels, there's a tool or a set of tools on the table that can help you live a higher quality of life and is within the literature, well researched, and something that can be supported well, and we have doctors involved and run blood work. But I'm going to just take that tool off the table because it doesn't fit my confirmation bias. That is my biggest gripe with the whole natty versus, because it's blinding coaches from being able to make decisions independent of their own preferences and themselves rather than what's best for the client. That is, if you had to ask me, and it's the same on the enhanced side, like enhanced coaches, literally I've had so many coaches come to me and say, oh, well, I worked with this bodybuilding coach in, whether it's Benos where I'm in sometimes or in another place. And bear in mind, this is just a Gen Pop client. Just a Gen Pop client. Literally just wants to maybe lose 15 kilos, improve their LDL markers, stave off the risk of pre-diabetes, and hypertension, etc. Whatever the health conditions are, these are the common ones. They had me on 40 micrograms of Clenbuterol, and literally, this is what's happening. So these prep coaches are saying, oh, I coach lifestyle clients.
They just put them in
He has a copy and paste. I put them in prep straight away. Copy and paste meal plan. No deviation.
No.
Oh, you can't have bread. You can't have dairy. You can't have all these ridiculous food rules, right? Sort of the outdated bro rules. Even many of the top bodybuilders don't eat like that anymore, which is just mad.
It's very funny.
Which is crazy. But then, literally, protocols. Even if it's not androgens, like lipolytics. And the amount of females that I've spoke to that have been like, oh, they were trying to push GH on me. Which, okay, it's not androgenic, so I understand it. But still, it's a drug, and it has a use case, and it has risks. But then it's like, well, and then it's like, well, they put me on a little bit of Anavar, and I'm like, oh, and that's where I draw the line. I was like, so as soon as you start opening the androgenic door for females,
complete irresponsibility.
So irresponsible, and especially if you're not explained the whole virilization process and everything else.
It's never explained.
To the point to sort of summarize that is, it's like, well, and it'd be interesting to hear what you've experienced and what your thoughts are on that. But you've got the natty side over here who completely disregard the potential risks of clients because they just don't understand this side of the game. So as a result of that, it's easier to plead ignorance and just slate it and almost dismiss it than it is to seek understanding. And even if you don't want to do it yourself,
farm it out to someone.
Maybe it's something you can either refer on to someone who does or learn about it and help your client with it. At least you just have a broader understanding, even if you personally choose not to do it. But the same on the enhanced side. At the end of the day, if you want to coach only enhanced people, that's your skill set and that's what your toolbox is.
Go ahead.
Go and do that.
Yeah.
But don't bloody
give it
push
to people who don't want it.
Winnie and VAR and Clenbuterol onto your Gen Pop clients. It just makes no sense. Exactly.
I agree.
What have you seen from your experience? Like,
I mean, that's so a lot of my clients are sort of now mid-40s males. And so I'll talk to them about TRT. I don't know anything about it. I wouldn't know where to start, but I'm like, if you feel certain type of way, some of these low testosterone symptoms are present, go and talk to your doctor, because like that is a legit therapy now. Like it's not even like a back alley, like you got to go and get your underground labs vials from someone. Like you can,
it's not black market stuff.
Yeah, like your doctor will prescribe it you. He'll schedule you for regular blood tests, and you'll have it administered properly. Blah blah blah. Go and explore it. Like especially if like. As I say, I'll just say that, I mean, it's always tongue-in-cheek because I know they have no intention of competing because they're all parents and they just have other things to do. But yeah, I'm like, as long as you have no intention of stepping on WNBF stage, you go ahead and do it. But they don't. So yeah, for me, it's never been something I wouldn't get, because like I say, I don't know anything about it. I wouldn't even know where to begin. But hey, it's a thing that exists. Talk to someone who knows what they're doing.
Someone's going to call your bluff on that one day. You go, let's step on the WNBF stage. Like, okay, when do we start preps? Like, what?
No, you can't now.
No, it's not for you.
Although I had to say that to one of my friends because he, unrelated to TRT. I mean, well, no, it's not unrelated. It's using certain compounds as a therapy. They started with peptides.
Okay. TB500 for healing and stuff, and BBC 157.
There you go. Started taking that for a shoulder injury, and again, he's just a recreational lifter, so I know he's not going to compete. But I was like, you better not come and step on my stage, man. Like, you got to be banned.
Because peptides are also off the list, right?
Depending on what you use. So, for example, for those two, because it's more for the healing of an injury, it's 2-year ban. For some of those other SARMs and stuff, it's 5 years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was just again tongue in cheek. Like he was like, do you think I should use it? You know, will I technically not be natty? I was like, technically, but do you care? Like you're just training in the gym for fun.
I think that's a key point you just made, though, is that I think that's the thing, is like there's one thing if you're going to compete, but there's some people that are never going to compete, but they still, and don't worry, I do understand it because it's almost just more of a values thing. It's just like, well, I want to be 100% lifetime natty. Sure. But my argument would be that if you're never planning to step on a natty stage, is that a set of constraints that you need to necessarily put on yourself? Now listen, if that's your values and that's what you 100% believe in, I'm all for it. And I would never, I've had some clients that are just like, I'm not interested in, even to the point that like, they were almost borderline reluctant to even take creatine, for example.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've heard that.
So, of course, being able to convince them, and I think the reason why you're able to see it from the point of view you do, as why I do, is that we both come from quite an evidence-based background, especially on nutrition, but also just in research in general. And so we're able to take things objectively, like, okay, well, what does the clinical data say, and what does the research say, and that's why okay, well, I know that TRT is a legitimate clinical practice, and it's something that can be managed, and so you're not taking that off the table because you've taken the time to at least know, okay, I know that it exists, it's there, it's something that could potentially be useful for you, but it's not my decision to make for you.
100%.
And I think that's just our job as coaches. We're here to solve problems, right? So if we don't have the answers to those problems, then at the very least we can at least point people in the right direction to have someone who does know how to help them.
Or it's a thing of just being kind of unaware or scared. Like my friend who's taking the peptides for his injury, just was sort of like, I don't really understand it. I don't know what they do. Like, is it this? Is it that? I was like, it's not, it's not like you're going to be blasting gear. It's not to that level. But from what I understand, it really does speed up recovery from injuries. And if you want to get back to lifting again, then go and consult someone who knows better than me. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a number of clients that run peptides, and so I'm very intimately familiar with BBC 157, TB 500. But the other thing in the industry now is that, I don't know if you've seen, I mean, I know you follow people like Trained by JP and stuff like that. Peptides is on a massive run of popularity at the moment. Like, the awareness on peptides right now is humongous. And so as an industry, it's expanding at an unbelievable rate. You only have to go onto JP stories, for example, at the moment, some of the other more prolific coach / educator / bodybuilders that do a bit of both. And I mean, the amount, if you look at their Insta, if they open up a story box for people to ask questions, it's all peptides at the moment. Even like John Jewett's fairly similar. Like, he gets his usual stuff, but there's so many questions on peptides because people are very much seeing it as a legitimate, well, there might be things we can explore here that don't have the same potential consequences as the... So I think either you can do one of two things. You can remain ignorant to it all, and whether you're deciding to do anything with them or not, or you can at least get educated on it. So when people ask you questions, you at least know, okay, well, I understand what is involved here and I know what these things do. I can't make that decision for you. Yeah. But this is...
But you might as well know.
And that's what I like to be able to do. I just don't ever say, right, I'd suggest that you just get on a course of 200 milligrams of test, 300 primo. Like, it's very much a case of, right, I'm going to lay out all the risks and all the benefits to these things, all cards on the table.
Yeah.
I can't make the decision for you. No. I'll let you sit with this. Once you've digested it, come back with questions, and then we can take it from there. And I think it's going to be the same whether it's peptides, whether it's a medication. Like, say, for example, they're wanting to go and see about a condition, whatever it is. It's always like, well, let's put it all on the table, and then...
It's the same thing you'd consider when getting any kind of other treatment, probably. Like,
or even working with clients and just looking at like their diet, for example. Like, okay, here's a fat loss phase. There's these approaches we can take to your fat loss: aggressive, moderate, slower, more expenditure, less calories. What resonates with you? So I think that always comes back to that. And you and I both know, I mean, you've been in the industry again, you said 13, 14 years at this point. Yeah, something like that. So we've been in this for, very similar time frame. It always comes down to the client's best wishes. And secondly, do no harm.
Yeah, do no harm. Yeah.
So there's always the cardinal rules, right?
Yeah. There's so much, the do no harm thing is a big one as well, because there's a lot of stuff in natural bodybuilding and the bro science side of things where you can sort of lean on that a little bit. And if it's a success leaves clues thing, but not intimately studied, doesn't do any harm, right, let's go for it. So for example, this season I've been wearing a waist trainer when I do my cardio, which is probably massively frowned upon by the ultra evidence base, but it really was a case of success leaves clues. I talked to a lot of pro men's physique guys, weirdly a lot of pro bikini girls, all wear it in season. And I was like, you know what, for 50 dirhams, what arms are going to do? Let's chuck it on every time I do cardio. Who knows? Did it make a difference? Not sure. Might have definitely got a leaner waist, but I'm also in better condition. So that's might be unrelated. Might not be.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like you say, if it does no harm, and it's more of and I think that's always going to be the best way to find out. Like, it's still, like, waist trainers have been shitted on by the evidence-based practitioners. I remember Lane Norton did a massive tirade on it at one point. In
a way, rightly so, I get it. But it is one of those things where I had to just think about it, like, all these successful people are using it, and it's not a huge outlay. I'm not going to, it's not going to bankrupt me. It's not going to do me any harm. Let's just see. Let's just chuck it on.
And let's be honest, like, correlation doesn't always infer causation.
No, it doesn't.
But at the same time, if you're even on the fence, always an N of 1 is always going to be the best way to go. Just try it, see what happens.
So it also has actually been quite good, because it'll probably similar to like the whole idea of, like, sometimes a pre-workout drink doesn't actually do anything. It's just sort of almost you drink it before you train. It gets you in the headspace. That's exactly what the waist training does for me before cardio. Like, strapping it up and getting it on, I'm like, right, cardio time, let's go. Like, kind of gets you in the mood.
It's almost like a ritualistic component to it. It's almost like, well, when I do this, then you're mentally, it's like a switch.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people have like the pre-workout rituals, and when they do this, then their mindset gets into the right.
Exactly right.
So, exactly right. And the thing is, even if it was a placebo effect, we know how powerful placebo effect is, right? It's probably one of the most studied phenomena that is in research, is how powerful placebo can be.
So you can't knock it.
Like that could make you, for example, apply more effort during your cardio sessions because you believe that you're getting more of a benefit from it.
That's my thinking.
So it's crazy. The last thing I want to finish on before we wind up this particular podcast is you've started on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
How long has that been since you've been doing YouTube?
Properly, like this year. This prep has been documented like every Sunday.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll pop the link to your YouTube in the description. But speaking of YouTube, you probably would have done a little bit of research around what's trending on YouTube and what type of things going on. So let's talk a little bit about one of the biggest trends, the natty or not trend. What is the deal with this? Like, why are people getting so hung up on whether someone is natural or not?
I think this latest wave of the natty or not thing is, how do I describe this properly? A little bit coming from a place of jealousy almost, in that there's a lot of very successful coaches selling programs off the back of their physique, and a lot of people who are annoyed that they're being so successful off the back of their physique when they're claiming to be natural when they might not be. That's the crux of it. And then my stance on that has always been like, whoever you choose to get coaching from or buy products from, you should be doing more due diligence than just looking at their physique.
Yeah.
What kind of information do they put out? Is it good? Is it completely unreliable? Are they farming out their programming to a VA in the Philippines? Like, what's going on there? So that's my side of that thing. And then the other side from a showrunner and organizer is, until they step on a WNBF stage, I don't care. Like, I don't really mind. Like, for me, it's not a huge drama. So it's definitely an interesting one. And I think a lot of it stems from people being a little bit dubious and jealous that people are being very successful off something that they might not be being totally honest about. And the biggest one right now is probably that Hussein Farhat guy.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's borderline for me. How do you feel about his physique? It's definitely very, very good. I can't say for sure either way. So
I mean, I've seen something, because I've seen quite a few YouTubers talk about him. He's very much in the spotlight at the moment. He's almost like the poster child for the Barkley hair generation, isn't he? At the moment, he fits the look down to a T. Great physique, but the thing is that I think a lot of people are looking at his physique when it's pumped up, certain lighting, whatever else. I've seen pictures of him when he's rested, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, great physique resting as well, but
blowing your mind.
I mean, I think it's doable natural. People are looking at it because of the age he's at. It's like, well, you don't know. Like, from a genetic standpoint, he just could be. He's had a few years now of training really well. He knows how to present his physique. He knows how to pose.
This is the thing I think, funnily enough, training in the warehouse has taught me, because all the young guys in the warehouse, particularly guys who came in and competed with us early doors, they are all so good at Instagram lighting. Like, I'll see their pictures on Instagram, I'm like, Jesus Christ, they've gained like 20 kilos this off-season. You see them in the gym, they look the same. They're just really good at finding the light. And I think these, hate to sound like an old head, but this Instagram, TikTok generation, they know how to hit lighting, they know how to hit shadows. So yeah, you're right. Like, when he gets the lighting dead on, he looks like a freak, but I've seen plenty of videos with him where he just looks like a muscular guy. So like I say, until he wants to come and step on a WNBF stage, it doesn't really affect me anyway. And I think, to be fair to him as well, like, the information he puts out is not terrible, so his coaching's probably fine. So good luck to him.
And then the I see it is that he's been able to strike that influencer sort of jackpot in terms of, right, he's got a lot of eyes on. At the end of the day, we're all trying to do something similar, maybe not to that scale, but he's just making the most of the opportunity he's been given. So anyone who respects the hustle of coaching and trying to build a business, he's just been able to do it at an age most people wouldn't dream of. And so I think fair play to him.
I think the difference for me would only be if he was like very much selling a pipe dream, like he was selling his transformation in 12 weeks, let's say, and specifically saying, oh, you can do this 12 weeks naturally, blah, blah, blah. And then it was found that he wasn't natural. That would be hugely disappointing.
Yeah, big time.
But as far as I'm aware, he's always stated about his transformation has been 3 years. He's trained over that time. It's not anything completely outlandish.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to, I think where a lot of people get outraged as well, though, is they feel, and again, I agree with you, and if we look at just the overarching principles, that what someone chooses to do is entirely their business. Why you care so much about what someone else is doing is beyond me. But I do understand that people who have got that level of influence and reach do need to be held to account and response. I just think that should be mostly done by peers, not by people who are less educated members of the general public. But what ends up happening is people have this almost moral obligation, and this was honestly my biggest issue with when I sort of moved towards doing more enhanced stuff. I actually had a couple of DMs from people quite well known in the Dubai space, and the only way I can describe it is it was almost like a moral superiority sort of word vomit of pretty much, I can't believe you're doing this. I'm really disappointed. I hate to be honest with you, I don't actually care that you're disappointed.
What part of your business
is that meant to hurt me? Like, but to their point, I think they were just feeling like, well, they felt that maybe I had a certain amount of influence or a certain amount of respect from people in the industry, and so they sort of saw it as, oh, but now that you're doing this, like you were a real bastion for being a natural athlete, and it's just like, I don't see how this choice is impacting you in any way. And that's my biggest issue with it, is that when there's a moral superiority of, well, now that you've done that, I am now up here and you're now down here because you're just now a worse person because you've chose to do this. That is illogical to me.
Yeah, I'll never understand.
It's just a choice, and it was a pretty educated choice at the time I made it as well. But moving back to the influencer stuff, I think Jeff Nippard is another name that comes to mind. He's been getting a lot of accusations for being a fake natty and whatever else. First of all,
that one's insane.
First of all, he's a midget for a start.
Yeah, so he's going to look really muscular.
He's very small.
Yeah, and his body weight's not anything insane.
No.
He's not, even for when you do the FFMI and weight to height, he's very normal. Very just.
And I think that's a big thing. Like, to your point, you said the whole weight to height thing. That is a massive indicator. You can, if you put those two stats together versus how lean they are, like, if you know your numbers and you know how that stuff plays out,
you get a pretty good idea.
Yeah, you have a pretty good idea. So there's nothing looking at Jeff Nippard other than he's a natty that goes through building and cutting cycles, and sometimes he just happens to post more of the stuff where he's lean than he does when he's doing the other stuff.
The other thing with him, with Jeff especially, he's been training properly for ages.
For a long time.
And this is just a thing for anyone, a takeaway for anyone, to be honest. A lot of these guys with really good physiques and pretty high FFMIs and good muscle mass, powerlifting background. And that goes against the evidence-based thing at the moment as well, probably. But, these people who tend to get really strong also tend to have very, very good physiques. And so,
if you've powerlifting background, right? And
if you've seen them training that way and doing these lifts, they're going to have the muscle mass to back it. It's just common sense to me.
I give an example of someone I've seen now who's started doing a little bit more bodybuilding training. We both know her. Have you seen Angelica in the warehouse gym?
Oh yeah,
she looks insane. And clapping hats off to her. She just started doing a bit more accessory stuff, and Jesus Christ, what development that's been in a relative period of time. But what has she been doing for the longest time? She's a powerlifter. Yeah. She's strong. And so then I never understood, from the evidence-based crowd, but strength doesn't transfer over to muscle. I was like,
I'm sorry, it just does.
Not on a direct, not on a linear level.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me that your ability to express strength and be able to move loads, if you get stronger at those lifts over time, your ability to lift higher weights in the hypertrophy rep ranges is going to be...
That's one of the evidence-based things that annoys me almost on a weekly basis. I'll see someone talk about strength doesn't equal size. I'm just like, I know what you're saying, but it does. I understand on a principle level that this is a neurological adaptation, but then I'll take an example of a guy I know here. So take Darren Farrell, who's the IFBB pro. The guy's freakishly strong. Is he really?
Crazy strong. Even in bodybuilding movements, some of the stuff that he throws on machines, you're just looking, and
how are you going to lift that?
Not even how, it's just in good technique, good mechanics, and it's just, you're just like, mashallah, it's very, and so you're just like, you can't tell me part of why Darren, yes, of course he's had a period of time where he's been on PEDs, but he's also had long periods of time where he's been running, and I've had these conversations with him, not much, but it's not like we're BFFs, but Darren's always very
open,
giving with his time and whatever else when you ask him, and he was just like, I was running TRT for this time because of this, and he was maintaining strength and holding his size. So the reality is that Darren's an athlete, he's strong as hell. He's held on to most of his size partly because of PEDs, but the massive part of it is because he's really damn strong. And so I think anyone who can't put those two and two together, that all the guys who are, majority of the guys who are big in the gym and who stay big for a long period of time, they're strong as hell.
It's such a bro approach thing to say, but I've never seen someone bench 3 plates that doesn't have good chest and shoulders. It doesn't exist. Very rarely, unless you're a very high level lightweight powerlifter, but outside of those circles, if you can bench 3 plates for reps, you probably are pretty good sizable top line. You can't tell me they're not related.
That for the most part holds true from what I've seen as well.
Again, and most things in fitness are on a bell curve. That's probably true. Most people who can bench 3 plates are probably pretty well muscled. And you'll have some outliers on either side. Guys who can't bench 3 plates who are really well muscled, guys who can bench 3 plates who are not so well muscled, but most of the time that's going to ring true in my opinion.
100%.
From what I've seen.
just to circle right back to
let's
that
go.
initial point about the Natty or not YouTube sort of phenomena culture at the moment, something that you said, and I want to expand on it, just 2 points that would be good to sort of close on that, is that one, I think you mentioned obviously about a lot of people feel that if they were to go on and sell something but make false claims, I completely get it. I think it even goes almost a bit higher level than that as well, like where it's almost like, well, this person has, say, 1 million followers, even 800, 500,000, whatever it is. I don't know. I know Jeff Nippard is
must be in the
millions on
easily.
YouTube, and
Must
then this other kid,
Hussein? He
Hussein.
must be in the millions as well. Or maybe not on YouTube, but maybe across.
But either way, like he's someone who's got a massive reach and influence, right? Is that it's almost like people feel like they have a responsibility to be sort of ethical and transparent, and they have a certain duty to, because of their position of power, to share, good information, accurate information, to not deceive, to not lie. Yeah. So I completely get that, but I almost think that the way that it's almost like self-policing to an extent, and don't get me wrong, people are going to hear that and say like, no, it's not. It's like the YouTube is like a wild west of all sorts of stuff. But for the most part, the people that are right at the top, they self-police themselves. They call each other out.
You'll get found out.
If you look at just the call-out culture, a lot of it is down to, Greg just said, just don't get started. Good old Uncle Greg, but he's just calling everyone out with his squeaky parrot voice.
He's figured out the algorithm, hasn't he? That's
what it is. And the thing is, because he's so like crazy and weird with his squeaky voice and everything else. But I get it. Like ultimately, it's that people like him, they're just chasing clout, and so people also do the Natty or not videos to get clicks and views, because people know that
100%,
if I'm calling someone out, this is going to be rage bait. It's going to be massive, especially like if you look at someone like Hussein or even Dr. Mike, he's bloody figured out the algorithm as well, hasn't he? Just says things that I think he doesn't. I don't think he really believes half the time, but it's just he knows it's going to get a reaction. So I think that's a big part of it. There's the two parts where people feel that these individuals have a responsibility, and if they don't live up to that, then
they feel somehow
they feel sort of begrudged by that, because they felt that maybe they were inspired by them or looking to them. So I sort of understand that to an extent, but I think a big part of it is just clout chasing as well.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's become such a big thing, is because even your small, I've watched videos from really small channels because it's just come up in my algorithm now. Because you watch one and then you're going to get all. Well,
also YouTube are starting to promote smaller creators now as well. True. Like there's a thing they've started doing recently where they're trying to get more people noticed. So, but I've seen that as well. People that for topics you're like, why am I seeing you and not this person? And
that it's a prime subject. Just Natty or not, everyone's interested. Everyone's got a vested interest. All right, let's go.
Yeah, but
I should really do one.
You should, or Natty or not, does it even matter?
Yeah, well, that's the problem with me doing one. I'd be too cynical about it. I think it wouldn't cause enough uproar, because I'd be like, it doesn't really matter.
So it's not polarizing enough.
It's not polarizing.
But I think the thing is, I knew that this would be a fun discussion to have, because even though I know that you're such a champion and rightly so, and I think it's a great thing for this country in particular, it needed it, for the natural side of the sport. You're someone who doesn't. You're just a fan of the sport in general. So you're someone who appreciates the enhanced side of the sport without necessarily feeling like you have to be involved in that. So I thought it was quite fun to have a conversation.
That's great. I love
who I feel is someone who's on the Natty side, if you want to call it that, the Natty camp.
Yeah.
But you just have a balanced head. And so I thought it was good to have this conversation with someone who could straddle the aisle, so to speak, and just have a balanced perspective. So I really appreciate taking the time to come on.
Welcome.
Where can people come and find you? Where's the best place to connect?
Probably best places are Instagram and YouTube. I'd actually try and push people more to my YouTube, because it's more of an insight into my prep, more of an insight into me as a person, whereas my Instagram is just a lot of memes and it's a kind of throwaway content. But Instagram at Charles Barclay with an X instead of an A, and YouTube Charles Barclay as well.
Either way, I'll drop the links to those. I'll link them in. You know the deal. You're on Mr. YouTube now.
Exactly.
So the next Mr. Beast of Fitness.
Exactly. I hope so.
Charles, appreciate it. Thanks very much.
It,
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Fitness Rants Podcast. If today's guest episode resonated with you, be sure to hit subscribe on either YouTube or your preferred podcast platform, so you never miss our expert interviews.
And if you want to connect with today's guest, all the details are linked in the episode description. Thank you for tuning in. We're looking forward to having you back for the next episode.